Hope everybody is doing well. We're having some pretty good weather here in Durham, North Carolina, where I'm based at. It's time for the online dinner party. Sometimes we have multiple guests. Sometimes it's a solo guest. So far, we've got one guest, but we might have another that'll join us later as well. We'll see how it all plays out on the dinner party. I know that I went and drafted my fantasy football team. And it looks like I did a little bit better than last year because last year I let the computer do most of the drafting, and I think I had like five tight ends or something crazy, maybe like four quarterbacks. So I did have everything that I needed to have, but the computer and the old fine folks at the football grading system still gave me an F. They gave me an A for one of the, they gave me an A for some of the other folks, but they gave me an F even though I had some good receivers. I think I got one of the receivers from Houston and another receiver from another team, and I've got the quarterback, Jared Goff for Detroit, and a couple of other good folks, I think, than everything. But then when it came to the grading, they gave me an F, and it looks like I get an F just about every year. So maybe I need to give up on this fantasy football thing that my brother got me into and all along those lines. But we'll see. Might need to do some shifting, some trades, maybe even get some pickup on some waivers and maybe find a way to still get in the mix. I know there have been a couple of years where I've actually won some money and everything like that. Never won the big prize, and I don't know that this will be the year, but hey, no one never knows. Might surprise myself, and all along those lines. It looks like the team that I root for in baseball is trying to be having the best record of all, because I did go to school at Marquette, and when I went there, I became a Brewers fan and have been a Brewers fan ever since. Because while I was there, they had their pennant run back in '82, and I remember I was just telling some friends of mine that because I met a young lady that was the PT for my dad who has had some health issues and all along those lines, and it turns out that she was at a birthday party. Dad's birthday was in June, and his lady love was in May. But they had a birthday celebration this past weekend, and everything to celebrate 80 and 85. And it turns out that a member of his health team is actually a fellow Marquette graduate. She was there when D. Wade was there, and I was there much earlier when Doc Rivers was around, and all along those lines. But yeah, I was sitting there just having that conversation with her, and all along those lines, and just thinking about those days and remembering that when they had their last run, meaning the Brewers, I watched the game, I think maybe from the dorm or someplace, might have even been one of the local bars or something like that. But I remember going down to the library thinking to myself, I'm going to go down to the basement. There's no way the noise is going to make it to the basement and everything. But even at the young age of 20, because that would have been like some 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago and everything, the noise made it downstairs, so I gave up and went and enjoyed the celebration and all along those lines. So I joined the celebration and made it to Major Goolsby's, and ironically, Real Chili, which was there when I was on campus and was across from what some people call the, I think the nickname was the soda bottle or something like that because it looked like a beer can. The beer can, I think that's what they nicknamed McCormick and everything like that. But right across was Real Chili, and right next to, further down in the downtown area was Major Goolsby. So all of that still exists, as does Summerfest. And I made it to Summerfest 1 year, maybe 2 years, but I think it was only 1 year, which is the big music festival that I think is over 50 years old there in Milwaukee, one of the longest running music festivals probably in the country. And I had the pleasure of seeing James Brown when James Brown was around and able to do splits and all along those lines. So that's just some of my memories of Milwaukee and trying to avoid it. But like I said, the Brewers are right now contending to be one of the best teams in the country and all along those lines. But they also went into a slide where they lost a series to Chicago. I think lost a series to somebody else as well. But right now, I think they're comfortably 7 games ahead of the Cubs for that division, and they are battling for the best record, which means that they would have home field, I think, all the way through, if I remember the rules of baseball correctly. But we're getting ready to get into some discussion about real estate on today's show and everything like that, even though I am curious to learn about this real estate agent that I've got with me and everything, see if he's a sports fan and all along those lines, because we are going to get into football season. And I know that we got some people here on the network that are fans of Miami. And of course, I'm over here where UNC is, and we'll see what Bill Belichick can do with UNC. And Duke is over here as well. And there are a number of other colleges, including NC State. So football season is amongst us as well. So I'm going to find out if Chris is a football fan, or maybe he even played sports when he was a youngster and all along those lines. So Chris, how are you doing? How is life treating you? Were you ever a sports fan, or is this something that you did not really get into and all along those lines? So I'm wondering if you were ever a sports fan, as I got into that little bit of a sports monologue and also reflected on the party that my dad had with his lady love as they turned 80 for her in May and 85 for Dad in June.
Yeah, and I'm good. Can you hear me all right?
I hear you perfectly loud and clear.
Good. No, definitely a sports fan. I don't watch as much as I used to. I got kiddos now, so it's hard on a Saturday, Sunday to give up a couple hours. But no, I was a pretty good player in high school. I played Division III in college for a couple of years before I got hurt. So yeah, I was definitely a big sports fan. My girls are big into jiu-jitsu now, and then once I got finished with football, my knees were real bad, so I picked up boxing. So I started boxing for quite a while. Now I do master stuff. So, oh yeah, big competitive guy. I usually follow individuals now. So like I was an ASU fan. So now that Scadaboo's with New York, I'm going to follow the Giants, I think. So, but I was born in Philly, so a big Eagles fan. Yeah, anytime there's a good game on, I don't mind sitting down watching if I can catch the time.
It's ironic that you said that because I remember my cousin Tanya. She played basketball in high school. Was actually a pretty good basketball player. Went to UNC Charlotte where she met her husband, and she also got injured and didn't really get a chance to go much further. Didn't really get a college playing career or anything like that. So unfortunately, those injuries do happen sometimes when we're in our young adult years and all along those lines. So they do happen on occasion and can derail a career. But right now you're doing stuff in the fire field in addition to being a real estate agent. And I know we've had a lot of things with fire, including fires that have been taking place in our mountains here in North Carolina, as well as what's been going on in California. So what got you into the firefighting field, and what advice would you give for folks that are thinking about going into firefighting if that's one of the career options that they're looking into?
Oh yeah, I mean, fire service is great. If you're speaking nationally, I'm in a paid service, so I'm full-time paid. There's a lot of volunteers places, but yeah, I'm a big city full-time paid. I got into it just because coming out in college, I had to take a lab science for school, and one of the lab science courses I took was an EMT course. So my emergency medical tech, really basic, just above CPR certification, but it was a lab science, and part of that class was to do a ride along with the fire department. So you had to go to like the emergency room, you had to do a psychological ride, you have to do all this stuff. So I went to a fire station, and I was 22 years old, and I was this big football player guy, and I realized that, wait a second, you guys get to work out all day and hang out with your buddies and go do fun stuff, and you shop together and you cook together and you work out. And it was really cool. I'm like, I think this can work for me. It was like being two-a-days back in the football team. So that kind of piqued my interest. And then come to find out they actually have really good benefits. They got retirement programs. They got, wellness clinics and a lot of opportunities once you get in there to help, train people, teach people, coach people. So all that stuff that kind of hit home with me is really what I bit off on once I got in. But the original thing was, man, it was like kind of like just a little boys club, man. We got, hanging out with your brothers and sisters all day and just hanging out. So it was a good time. So yeah, I encourage anybody who wants to do it. They're into the team sports. They're into working out, staying healthy, and helping people. It's the way to go.
Hey, speaking of that, and along those same kind of lines, I've done a lot of event planning, both the Blues Festival, which hopefully will come back next year, which is the Bull Durham Blues Festival. But I remember that, and also Centerfest, which is our Durham Street Festival. There was always contingency plans and trying to do crisis management and all along those lines to make sure that if anything was to take place, whether it was weather related, because I know in some of the festivals we've had storms have rolled in, or whether it was man-made crisis like overcrowding or even some sort of terrorist action or something along those lines taking place, that we were prepared and everything like that. So I remember making sure that we were in contact with the police department, the fire department, everybody was on the same page, and that there was some sort of crisis management plan should a crisis arise and everything like that. I was just wondering, do you think that is something that is still being done as much as it should be done on both sports events and just in general? Because I'm not sure exactly which city you're in and everything like that, but I'm just wondering, are you thinking that our corporations and nonprofits are doing enough in crisis management?
Yeah, I mean, on the paid side, from like a public perspective, I would say absolutely. The big cities are, I mean, the big one was 9/11, right? That really opened everybody's eyes to the potential. Our city does a fantastic job, and we're metropolitan Phoenix. So we have, 15, 20 different surrounding cities. We call them IAPs, incident action plans. There is no even moderately sized event that does not go unplanned. The police departments usually take the lead, and then they filter in whatever services they think they might need. Fire is usually a very big component because we do medical as well. But depending on the size of the event, it scales up very quickly. I mean, you could be talking just a a small concert, where maybe 500 to 1,000 people will certainly get an incident action plan. Most cities will actually require that you have an on-duty police and or fire presence at those facilities. And then as it scales up, in Arizona, for instance, in Glendale, we would have the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl, they're going to tie in Homeland Security, FBI, local authorities. I mean, it's quite large very, very quickly. And these guys are very connected nationally. So a lot of this stuff is coordinated in a way that creates a seamless transition regardless of it. So we're all very, very much on the same page. A lot of the formatting is the same. The responsibilities are the same. The training correlates it. So it's not just, we don't hope something goes wrong or anything related to that. It's, we will train cross-collaterally with other cities, other departments, so that if something happens, we aren't unfamiliar with working with different agencies, communication styles, radios. It's very, very in-depth, and most cities are doing a very good job.
Yeah, that sounds good and everything like that. I know one of the things that you've been involved in quite a bit, both in your firework and also working in boardrooms. But I was just wondering, because we're going through it at one of my nonprofits, one of our executive directors just recently got let go of by the board of directors. And after that, they're now scrambling and doing an executive search and all along those lines. And of course, people are trying to lay low as much as possible, but also trying to make sure that they're prepared for whatever new leadership will bring and everything like that. So I was just wondering your thoughts about leadership under pressure, because this will definitely be a pressure leadership for whoever comes in. And I've actually been on some search committees. We've got the Art House Theater, and I know that at least two of their searches, I was on that search committee, and I think on the search committee for one of our symphonies as well and everything. So I just wanted your thoughts around leadership under pressure when people are coming into new situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, right? Leadership under pressure is something that is very difficult to coach. You really have to be in those situations to learn from them. You have got to understand from a mentor or some form of process that you understand how to really calm your mind to make difficult decisions when times are tough. The fire department's really good at this. The military probably leads the way. There's a ton of good business books related to that, podcasts, YouTube training videos, things like that. If you're ever interested, I mean, you just Google Navy SEALs, right? The entire concept behind like BUD/S training, for instance, is we are going to put you under so much pressure and stress mentally to find out how you focus when you are in, just the absolute worst case scenario, and then to be able to calm your mind to make decisions. And then repetition, right? That's the big one. Is if we consistently train you under repetition, regardless of what you're, in front of you, your body will respond and react naturally. No different than, if you're a big sports guy, right? So if we go into, training, let's say you're doing 2-a-days and you are absolutely exhausted, and we run the same play over and over and over again in practice. Not because every time we do it in practice, right, there's no defense on the other side of the ball, you're going to score every time. That is completely unrealistic. That's not the point. The point is that when you're in the game and you snap the ball, your body responds in a way that allows your body to move, but your mind to focus on something outside of that. So, when you're getting someone new in, I don't know if you can duplicate any type of a stressful situation outside of, just more of an interview style of,
Right.
Have you been in a stressful situation? Why was it stressful? How did you overcome it? Talk to me about your lifestyle. Is there things in your life that are stressful? How do you overcome those? What's your decision-making processes? How do you work through these things? Do you have a mentor in your life that has helped coach you through this? How have you overcome these things in the past? It's hard, right? And when you're talking a boardroom style situation, a nonprofit, to draw those experiences out of people is really a difficult thing to do, because you don't know how someone's going to react until they're under pressure. So trying to get a good idea about that, if that pressure has been applied to them before and how do they overcome it. If they have a good mental process on how they overcome those things, they can usually explain it pretty well. And they shouldn't feel too much pressure to explain it. So it should come out clearly in a way that makes you feel comfortable that they have a good, solid, problem-solving algorithm, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. I know one of the things I've been seeing in corporations, and it kind of came together even in this situation I'm talking about with the nonprofit board, is there's a lot of generational divide. And I've seen it even in some of our public, like our political action committees and stuff along those lines. So as a business leader, I was just wondering how you deal with that. Because like I said, right now, this particular newer board is a much younger board, and of course they've got some young ideas and everything like that. Some of the staff members are closer to like my age in their 60s and stuff in that time span and everything along those lines. But we are seeing a lot more Gen X, millennials, and Gen Y that are getting into leadership. And of course, they want to bring their ideas to the forefront. And sometimes they clash with the baby boomers and all along those lines. So I just wanted your take on how to put together these divides and these different age ranges, because the baby boomers are still very much in the workforce, even though many of us are in the process of getting ready to retire, or at least getting to retirement age, even though I know quite a few baby boomers. Chuck, that just mentioned my dad, and my dad is still very active. He's in his artwork, even at the age of 85.
Wow, that's fantastic. Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the $1 billion question that I think every organization is right now struggling with, is this divide that you're talking about. The older generation is having a very, very difficult time understanding what information this new generation is expecting. When I came up, and you're an athlete, I'm an athlete. It was, you don't speak unless spoken to. When someone tells you to do something, you keep your mouth shut and you do it. That is not this generation. This generation expects to understand what's taking place. They want to know the why behind every decision that's made. They are going to ask you. They're going to push you. They're going to ask questions that make you uncomfortable. They don't mean to. They just really, really want to understand the value system behind decisions that are being made, and they want to be behind the message that's being developed. And we're just not used to explaining that because no one's ever explained it to us. And so being patient and understanding with this new generation is very, very difficult for some of the older generations, and that's me included. There's times in my business where, explanation and understanding is appropriate, but there's other times where I'm frustrated and I don't need you to understand. I just need you to do it. Right. And that, unfortunately, is not what they're expecting. They want to know why they're doing what they're doing. They want to find value in what they're applying themselves to. And what we're finding very interesting now is the job hopping, right? If they're not comfortable where they're at, they just quit. They don't care. If they don't feel the value behind what action they're taking, they will move on. And they have no qualms about feeling any sense of ownership to your process and your vision and your goals. It's not important to them unless you can find value and make it important to them directly. And so that's really been a very, very difficult transition, especially in the fire department, but in my real estate business as well, man. It is definitely the biggest thing we're dealing with right now. Recruitment, retention, value systems, alignment of goals is a very, very difficult one. But if you can really take a deep breath and explain to them, the value system and the processes and what they bring to the table and how it's needed and wanted, that's what they're really looking for. You can really try to maintain some of those people. But man, it's definitely going to be the most difficult part. I'll tell you, one of the major things we're starting to realize, and this is just from my kind of arbitrary and anecdotal conversations, right, is, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, I want to hear the anecdotal conversation, but just really quickly, the only thing you said that I found very interesting is I see a lot of people that are having their own vision, and this is their across age ranges and everything, and they sometimes want you to buy into their vision without thinking whether their vision and your vision are actually aligned together. Because, there's that simple word of no, and there's also that notion of people pleasing. And I do know that even myself sometimes fall into that people pleasing category and everything. So I just wanted your thoughts around that, because I do see sometimes that people have these grandiose ideas and they want you to buy into their grandiose ideas. And I'm not saying you can't support grandiose ideas, but I think that the people that are in management sometimes need to realize that their grandiose idea isn't necessarily the grandiose idea of their workers and everything along those lines. I just wanted your take on that, because I've seen some people with some very big grandiose ideas, and they're like, you got to really come in there and be all gung-ho to support me and everything like that. And you're going but that's not my vision. That's your vision.
Yeah. So you really described it, and I'm trying to find a different word to use when I talk about this, but narcissistic is the only one that I can come up with. The younger generation that let's just call them under 35, is very different than what my parents grew up as, which is get married and have kids before you're 25, and everything revolves around the family, your children, your future. All of those things were the priority. That is not the case anymore. Individuals are not getting married. They're not having kids. What's important to them is them. Everything they do is a social media post. Everything they do is a YouTube post. Their world is their world, and everything else and around it, they feel is a tool in order to create a successful outcome for whatever their world is. And so there's no more dedication or thought process to what they're bringing to the table for another organization. It's what can your organization do to me to fulfill my needs in whatever it is I'm going to put on my next social media post. And so I'm being a little facetious in that concept, but that's the idea, is they are in their own mind and in their own world, and that is the priority. Everything else is merely a tool in order to create a successful outcome for them, however they define it. And it's now an organization's role in order to find that and try to nurture it in a way that aligns them with the goal of the organization. And so trying to find that is difficult. It's very, very difficult. And that's the leader's kind of new challenge is what you just talked about, is trying to find that alignment between really the narcissist who's trying to create a successful outcome for whatever it is they want, in alignment with your goal set, pointing in the right direction and finding a way to find value. So you're absolutely right.
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things we heard a lot around, particularly during the height of COVID, and people are still getting COVID. As a matter of fact, one of my co-hosts just got over a case out there in California recently and everything. And actually that same birthday party, I got a text and just did the test that came out negative, which was a good thing. But one of the people at the party did test positive, but it was in a well-ventilated place and everything. So I doubt that a lot of folks did catch it, and they might have even caught it on their ride back home because they were one of the visitors for the birthday celebration that was coming from out of town. But Linda, my dad's lady love, did send a notice just so that we could be aware, take the test, and make sure that we were good. But one of the things that came out was this whole notion of burnout and motivation. So I just wondered, whether it's with firefighting or with the real estate, how do you keep your individuals motivated? Because we heard a lot of people that were burnt out, a lot of people that were even frustrated with the online presence of their corporations and everything. And we've even heard a lot of people that want the workers to come back to the job force and everything. And a lot of the workers, from what I'm hearing, are like, no, I'm kind of comfortable in front of my computer and in front of my phone and in front of everything in my home environment, and the kids can go off to school and they can come back, but I can be in my own work environment. But I know that a lot of time workers, and particularly employees, want to be able to monitor and directly monitor what their employees are doing. So the employers want to be able to monitor the employees. You can do that to some degree online, but you can't do it as effectively, I would think, as you can with your person to person.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, burnout's tough. I mean, it isn't, I would say the burnout question has transitioned from what I used to think it was, which was people work so hard that they just eventually crash. They don't take care of what they need to at home. And so the blending and the balance and the life balance became an issue. But that was because the individual was focused on creating such a positive and successful outcome at the workforce that they didn't balance, and they created their own burnout. Now, that does not seem to be the case. I don't have an overwhelming number of people who are burning out because of how much effort they're putting into the job. That's not the burnout I'm seeing anymore. The burnout I'm seeing more now is based on more of mental wellness. So a lot of mental health issues are starting to become a thing where people want, again, more of and I got to come up with a different word because narcissist has more of a negative connotation, but they're just very self-involved in their mental status, which I'm not opposed to. So it's balancing the burnout side of it is more, how can we help people create the holistic environment within their own world that they're trying to create around them? How can the business side of the organization support that mechanism so that they feel comfortable and supported in their process by giving them that as almost a benefit, like an employer benefit that allows them, I think, to kind of create that security net within themselves and alignment within the organization. They want to stay committed to us. And by allowing the mental health piece to be more of a success as opposed to the burnout side, I don't see a whole lot of burnout. There isn't. We're not having any issues with people overcommitting to an organization to create burnout. If that happens, they're usually quitting long before any burnout is reached. So we're not seeing that much.
That makes sense. What about motivation? How are you finding ways to motivate people? Because I know I'm here in North Carolina, in Durham, North Carolina. I remember that this was well before COVID and everything, that a lot of companies, whether it was Red Hat or whether it was Cree or a number of others, would try to bring the family situation into the corporate environment. So there would be like daycares in the corporate campuses, there'd be like work environments and playrooms and all along those lines, so that people could actually stay motivated even while they were in the work environment. I mean, there was even some, might have been Red Hat, that had like the couches and the playrooms and all along those lines, adult playrooms, that is, and everything like that. So I just wondered, what is your thoughts around those kind of things? Because I had another show, one of these online dinner parties, and the person was not the biggest fan of those kind of things. But like I said, I do know that back in the day with SAS and Cree and even Red Hat, it was a big thing that was going on. And those are just three companies that I remember talking about it and everything along those lines.
Yeah. So there's really two questions there, which is, the benefit packages that people are offering and the kind of the ancillary support systems in an organization, for instance, like daycare, right? Daycare is a good one. That's a great example, because daycare isn't creating, in my opinion, doesn't really create motivation. If anything, it creates what we would consider like golden handcuffs, right? If you offer this benefit or perk that maybe your competitor doesn't, you're not creating motivation to the organization. You're just creating a situation where they can't leave you because they don't see the ability to leave. That's not the same as motivation. It's very, very different. You're just creating a golden handcuff where I guess I have to stay because the other company doesn't offer this. They don't want to. They have to, right? That's you're offering a perk and a golden handcuff as opposed to motivating. The motivation side, again, I have to go back to the individual. Each individual is going to be motivated by very, very unique and separate things. You're highly hamstringed as an organization on what you can offer them as far as individualized motivation. So from a leadership perspective, I think it's imperative that the leader identify what motivates their individuals. Ideally, we create like our scope of management to be smaller. So you're only managing 5 to 7 people instead of 10 to 15, and you have a much more direct, consistent contact with those individuals. So you understand what it is that motivates them, and then you try to develop a plan around them. So in our organization, or at least in my real estate especially, I try to figure out what their plan is from a 5-year perspective. Where are you looking to end up? And how can I create those opportunities within my organization for you to achieve while staying here? And so if I can develop a plan and a path for the person, that seems to be a little bit more successful in creating motivation. Because motivation, I have to give them the plan based on what they're telling me they want. I can't say, well, you want to be a millionaire, don't you? This is how you do it. I don't get to pick the plan, force it down their throat, tell them that's what they want and that they should be motivated towards it. It may have no interest to them at all. And so understanding what it is that person wants, because again, I go back to that narcissistic style mentality. They really are only concerned about themselves in a lot of ways, which isn't a bad thing. And so it's my job to understand them, build a system around them so that they can understand that the future has a positive outlook for them. So I would say that's the best way.
That makes sense. What are your thoughts around the work-life balance? Because I hear that, and that's been brought up on this show as well as some of our other shows here on the network, including Follow the Brand, that'll be coming up at 7 o'clock with Grant McCall, that's based out of Florida and everything. But what is your thoughts around work-life balance? Because you mentioned that you've got your young people, and I'm sure you try to go see them when they're doing their martial arts, because I think you mentioned that they were in the martial arts and everything, and your wife has probably got her own business and everything along those lines. So how do you balance the work-life balance, and how do you also encourage your employees to maintain that work-life balance? Because that's something we've been hearing a lot of people talk about, particularly in the COVID era, the notion of trying to make sure that you did your work, but that you also had time to go out and do some physical exercise or meditation or just something along those lines, maybe have your spiritual journey, whatever that may be, and your emotional journey. So with that whole work-life balance, but also trying to be balanced in general. So how do you encourage people to do that as an employee?
Yeah, I mean, work. So for me, it's understanding. So, for instance, when I'm hiring someone, I want to understand kind of what makes them tick. What are they into? So that I can make sure they have least opportunities to keep achieving that, whatever makes them happy. Where I've had to adjust as a leader is understanding that not everyone's going to be me. And so when I'm hiring for a position, what I'm hiring for is an outcome. I want to make sure that whatever I'm putting money into, the outcome that I'm getting back is what I am expecting to do. How they do it, when they do it, and how they balance that life choice is going to be on them. And my ability to communicate with them on how they're going to achieve it is what creates success. But, from a work-life balance standpoint, my biggest hurdle in the beginning of my management career was expecting people to work like I do. They will not, because I have made my life and my success based on my work ethic. And basically it was, listen, I'm a I'm a 5'10" white guy who's slow, who said, how am I going to be successful and make it to college football? I have one option. I have to outwork you. I am never going to be physically gifted enough to do anything special. The only way I can do it is outworking people. And so when I get into the workforce, to expect other people to do that was very, very immature on my part. How can I expect people to outwork me when that was my thing? Like you're never going to outwork someone whose goal was to outwork you. Like we're playing this game that's a no-win situation. So, that's what separates me is I will just outwork anyone, and that's okay. That's just my difference. So I've had to adjust and make sure that I understand that I'm now hiring for an outcome, and making sure that that outcome fits in the work-life balance that the person I'm trying to apply to that outcome, it's going to work for their work-life balance goals. If it does, we probably have a good fit. If the outcome is higher than what they can give me while balancing their life, it's probably not going to be a good fit long term. And then that's where you'll see the burnout and turnover. And then that's kind of how I balanced it and matured through my life.
No, that's interesting you say that and everything. And just to make some clarity, that's why I was laughing, because I can agree. Because like I said, while you identified and classified me as an athlete, I wouldn't go that far. It's been a minute since I've done athletic stuff, but I am a fan of sports, definitely a sports fan, everything. And I did run track when I was in high school, but I had the most unusual track experience. And it's where I discovered one of my business acumens and all along those lines. Because I had a coach that was the track coach, that his philosophy was basically, I will run you and run you and run you to death, and if you survive, you're on the team. So that's how I made the track.
I love
it. And that's so. Like I said, I was not the best 880 and mile runner. Actually, probably was one of the worst ones. But I was also a good networker and recruiter at that time. So while I knew I was not going to be a good athlete, I intentionally recruited friends of mine that were football players and basketball players, and tried to make sure that they were on the team with me. And I think we won 3 out of 4 of our state championships until my senior year, when I got a little bit selfish. And we could have our narcissistic moments and our selfishness as well, because I got tired of losing. So I recruited a friend of mine who is now passed on. He passed on many decades ago and everything, but it was somebody that I knew I could beat, because he was heavy. Matter of fact, he's probably like the weight that I am now, because I'm not exactly thin.
But I mean, you carried those lessons with you, right? I mean, what you learned from there, it carried you on for the rest of your life, right? I mean, those lessons that's the value, right?
That's the value that I learned, the positivity of networking and how important networking is. One thing we've been talking about, and I definitely want to get to some of the real estate questions as well, but we've been talking about on this show and on this network in general, is this whole notion, not just of people pleasing, but of the imposter syndrome. And you sound to have a very confident attitude about yourself and everything. But how did you get past that imposter syndrome? Because I know whether it's in relationships, and I'm in my early 60s, or whether it's in business deals, I sometimes have that whole conversation with myself. And by the time I talk myself into it, the job opportunity, the romantic opportunity, whatever, has gone out the door, because I was so busy having that internal conversation. So I just wondered, as a self-confident person, how did you get past that whole notion of the imposter syndrome? Or is it something that you still tackle yourself these days?
I not only have I not gotten rid of it, I don't want to. I think the humility that it creates and how I go about my day, and what it allows me to find value in, and how I spend my time moment to moment, is something that I hope I never lose. I don't feel like I deserve any of the life that I've achieved. I don't know why me. I feel extremely blessed and lucky. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have worked harder than anyone, but that doesn't change. I've seen other people work hard too, and they don't have the same outcome. So I still have imposter syndrome every day. That's what drives me to get up, because I know that if I think I don't deserve this, then it can all go away tomorrow, and that's okay. And I have to be okay with that, because my drive has got to keep me going every single day. My goal is not to get rid of my imposter syndrome. My goal is to make sure that I appreciate every day what I have, and then to pass on to other people so that they can create the same outcome, as opposed to thinking that somehow I deserve this because I have some formula that was created. That is just not the case. I just get up every day. I outwork people. I'm nice to people. I'm humble about what I've achieved, and I make sure I pass it on and bring up people behind me. So not only have I not gotten rid of it, I don't want to. I love the anxiety that it gives me. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me nervous, and that's what drives me.
Yeah. I've got a friend that's actually thinking about starting a beauty salon in
Oh,
the
cool.
Richmond, Virginia area, and all along those lines. And they actually surprised me because they actually sent me a business plan and a proposal for what they're trying to get created and everything like that. One, I
Yeah.
was surprised by the cost because the chairs that you have to have if you're going to have a beauty salon, or even the building itself and a number of other things aren't exactly cheap. And they did realize that and everything, even though they might have undercut or lowered, estimated some of the costs that they were thinking about and all along those lines. But I was just impressed that they had a business plan. So I just wanted your thoughts around that, because one of the things that I found is a lot of people don't have a business plan or a mission statement, even if they've got an ambition to start something. And like I said, this is a relatively young entrepreneur. I think she's in her early 30s or something along
Awesome.
those lines. But I just wanted your thoughts, and what advice would you give to somebody that is thinking about starting a business, and even in a very highly competitive industry, because the beauty industry is highly competitive. So what advice would you give to somebody that was thinking about starting a business in an industry like that, or restaurants or something else?
The I'm not super familiar with the business with that business industry specifically. I know there's a couple different models on the beauty side. You can you can rent chairs out, from what I understand. So you can have individuals actually rent from you, where they're basically just tenants, and then they're responsible for their own clientele. That seems like the easier model as far as kind of longevity. It's kind of a subscription style, right? You don't have to worry about recruitment. It's ongoing revenue. You may not make as much, but at least it's more consistent. It's kind of like the single family house versus multifamily. You get one chair empty, your income is still high, right? But if you lose a ton of clients, or you shut your place down for a day, you lose all your revenue. So, but as far as advice for just kind of someone starting in that industry, I would say, no matter what route you go, your success, I think, will be equal to the amount of time you spend away from your house and outside of your familiar area. You already hit on the head, right? Networking and shaking hands and being relationship based, I think, is where longevity comes from. When you have a support system around you and people trust you and they know you, it won't matter if you open a beauty salon. It won't matter if you sell insurance. It won't matter if you are a real estate agent. If you're good to people, you call people back, you show up on time, you're honest, you do the right thing, they will follow you until the end of time. And it won't matter if the beauty part is successful or not. They will just appreciate the effort and be a supporter forever. So, just hustle, shake hands, be good to people, be honest, open, answer your phone, do the right thing, and get out of your house and shake some hands.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything like that. I want to come to the real estate, and I definitely want to come back to some of the leadership stuff as well. One of the things I've been seeing in real estate, there was a time a long time ago, and it might have been even before you got into the business, that malls were very popular. I'm talking about like the very smaller kind of malls and everything, and they are totally. The big box malls are still around. Like we have one here in Durham, North Carolina, called South Point, and everything like that. And even some of the malls that have like the Costco's and the Sam's Clubs and like the big stores that are part of them are still out there. But the smaller family-owned malls, people are trying to figure out what to do with them. Like just down from the Coastal Arts Center that I work at, there was a Chicago developer that was coming to town and wanted to put on I think 45-story high rise, and got a lot of pushback from the citizens. So they actually pulled out and everything like that. And they're one of the old family malls that they're now talking about converting into both housing and business, and trying to make it a mixed use development. That's what I was looking for, and everything along those lines. And I've also heard a lot of people talking about communities and trying to make what they call walkable communities in the real estate market and all along those lines. So I just wondered, are those some of the trends that you're seeing, and what are your thoughts about that? Because I remember even when I was in junior high, I had contemplated a couple of careers. I got definitely into journalism and event planning, and have been doing this for a number of decades. But there was a time that I was thinking about being a weatherman, and I was also thinking briefly about being an architect. And I remember doing a building that was going to be what amounts to a high rise. So the rendering that I put up was the building going vertical. And it seems like that's a lot of what we're doing now, is a lot of vertical building. So I might have been ahead of my time in that thought and everything along those lines. But I'm also hearing a lot of people talking about walkability communities where everything is nearby, that your school is nearby, your movie theaters are nearby, everything is nearby, even the gym or the Y if you're going to the Y, and all along those lines. But it's all within a walkable facility of the housing area as well. So I just wondered, are these some of the trends that you're seeing, and is this some of the stuff that you're doing in Arizona?
Are you talking malls in general or just overall commercial real estate?
Overall commercial real estate.
Yeah, I mean, every municipality is gonna be a little different. Arizona is very spread out and flat, so everyone here has a car. I mean, the transition to everyone's trying to really build up just from a green perspective. That land is getting more expensive, but what we do here in Arizona is gonna be very different than in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Miami, all that. And it depends on the area, right? In Florida, trying to break ground right now, just don't. You're not going to. You can't get insurance if you wanted to. So there's a lot of areas that are going through like environmental issues. There's not a lot of people building in California anymore. There's a lot of people leaving. New York, you just don't have skyline anymore. So it's very different. In Arizona specifically, we have a big fight right now between essentially apartment complexes. We're just seeing those pop up on every corner. And we're getting a lot of pushback on high density stuff. As a population, we haven't been used to that. We've been very spread out, single family type houses, big lots, a lot of space, suburbia, so to speak. And so as we infill this stuff and start to try to create higher density, we're getting pushback. But yes, I would say from what you're talking about, we would call it multi-use. So you would have, a 6-story building. On the bottom, you would have, a small little farmer's market grocer type of thing, maybe some office space, mixed use space where you kind of share office space. You might have like an artist next to a hairdresser, next to a tattoo artist, next to a coffee shop. And then above it, you have your apartment complexes. So yeah, that's becoming a lot more common. And then obviously the value is there. On a commercial side, the other thing that we're seeing, which is probably not great for the younger generation, which is all single family rental units. So we're seeing huge swaths of areas being bought, 9, 10, 12 acres where they're putting single family small units that are all rental communities. So it's not an apartment, it's not a condo. It's a very, very small, like 2-bedroom, maybe a small 3-bedroom house with like a patio, very, very tightly packed with a community pool, but it's all rentals only. So that's been an interesting transition we've seen out here that the big banks are starting to do because people want patios for their dogs. They want to have more of a home experience, but they don't want the commitment or can they not afford an actual home. It's a good transition piece. But again, it's starting to push people to a lifetime of rentership, which is not good for the future, I think, of our younger generation. So, but I would say those are the kind of the big ones that we're seeing right now: the mixed use, and then the full-time single-family rentals.
What is going on in Arizona? I know that Ian Nevada, which isn't that far from Arizona, had a friend that lived out there, and I think she's still out there. I think she's teaching in Arizona at one of the colleges, if I remember correctly, in addition to teaching at UNLV, if she's still out in that general community. It's been a minute or a year or two since we last communicated and everything. But I remember that even in Nevada, and I'm guessing in Arizona, there was a lot of conversation around gentrification. And we've been seeing that here in North Carolina as well. So a lot of what used to be the urban areas are now seeing an influx of people from different communities, and some of those old houses being upfitted and retrofitted and even being priced out of the original homeowners price range and everything like that. So I just wondered if that's something that you're still seeing in Arizona and just your general thoughts around it, because it does seem like gentrification has been going on for a while. Even, like I said, the Cultural Arts Center that I work at, there's a major highway that destroyed pretty much one of our old Black Wall Streets and everything like that. And part of that was that it destroyed not just the Black communities, but some of the rural, poor white communities and other communities as well, because they wanted to have an influx of highway traffic. So I understand the reasoning behind it. Don't necessarily think that it was good for the community and everything like that. But I just wondered your take on gentrification, if it's still a problem in the United States.
The United States, I mean, it depends on how you want to define gentrification. If you're talking about the U.S. government eminent domaining a Black community because it was the easiest place to put a highway, there is absolutely nothing good about that, in my opinion. I don't think that, I mean, I understand that a highway can theoretically benefit the total population by reducing whatever, but, it's very clear that they often pick a poorer community with less of a say in the voting rights in order to demolish so they can do that. I go back and forth on that. It doesn't seem like it's great. I think the money for the highway could probably have been better spent by cleaning up the streets, reducing crime, and improving school systems. But, that's not my vote. So I would say gentrification in Arizona, we don't deal with the eminent domain stuff so much as the government coming in and making a decision essentially which neighborhood is more valuable than another to try to,
Right.
put money into. What we deal with more now is pricing appreciation. So it's a natural gentrification of our market, meaning when a neighborhood, not even necessarily people start moving in and making it nicer, it's more of just the market in general, right? The neighborhood was once 200,000. Well, now it's 600,000.
Right.
And it didn't have anything to do with anybody moving in or trying to change it. It was just a victim of circumstance related to the appreciation. And so just by opportunistic ideas, people start moving in because that's all they can afford. And if that's all you can afford is now 600,000, the gentrification is merely an outcome based on the market by no like master plan to change a specific neighborhood. So there's definitely a couple different things going on from that perspective. But in Phoenix, we still have some of that, right? We still have people that are, moving into neighborhoods and changing the face of them that historically have been different. I don't know. I think if somebody thinks that there's going to be a neighborhood today that's going to be the same in 50 years, I just don't know if that's ever been the case, nor will it ever be the case. Change is constant. Now, not all of it is good, but I can't tell you it's ever going to be the same. It just won't. And so just accepting it and trying to do it in a positive way, I think, is the best way to approach it.
That makes sense. I know one of the things that people used to do, and I had friends of mine who were actually exploring this idea, and I think I even had some that did it, and all along those lines. Well, one, my mom sold the house that me and my younger brother lived in before he got married the second time, and definitely before he got to his house. And my nephews are now seniors and juniors in high school, and all along those lines and everything. But I remember when Mom sold the house, the people that bought the house duplexed it. So they basically turned it into 2 housing units and all along those lines. And I've also heard people that have literally bought houses and then flipped them, whether they've duplexed them or whether they've done other renovations and all along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts about that as a real estate tactic, because I've even heard people that are in the real estate business that have said that they encourage some of their clients to do that. So like you said, if they buy a house at a discount but feel that they can duplex it or do other things to it to increase its worth, that it is worth doing it. I think the last time I looked at on Zillow, it might be $40,000 more than it was at the price that I sold it at and everything like that. But I just wanted your thoughts on that. And I don't have the Zillow in front of me, so that might not be an exact figure, but I do know it was definitely worth it to the family that they made a profit, the family that bought it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a new trend, I would say, over the last 5 years. They call it house hacking, where if you want to try to break into the real estate market, that's as far as an investor is concerned. You buy a house as an owner occupied. You buy the ugliest house on the nicest street. You put some money into it. After a couple of years, you either refinance it, turn it into a rental, and just do it all over again. And the concept being just try to build up a real estate portfolio without having to do a investor loan with 30% down and all this other very strict and stringent criteria in order to do it, and also have the income related to supporting it. So house hacking it's a great way to do it. It's a nice slow process to build up a portfolio, especially if you don't have the income or the support behind you. And I think it's a great way to kind of create an outcome. The problem we deal with is the patience. A lot of people want instant gratification. They want money quickly. It is not the pathway to quick riches. Really, nothing is. And that's actually why I like it, is because it forces you to be patient. You don't have a choice. And that's the slow way to growth that I think a lot of people can work for people for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that the network founders, Nick Spalveda, who's a pension attorney, and Kim Calhoun, who is an engineer by trade, oftentimes talk about it. It's part of the reason they founded Pod TV is this notion of fiscal literacy, because they felt that a lot of things that should be taught in schools were not being taught in schools. And even in looking at your podcast guest profile, I know that one of the things that you talked about is this whole notion of finance fundamentals for everyday people. So I just wanted your thoughts around that. And do you think that our school systems should be teaching more than they are? I don't know whether you give your kids an allowance. I actually have to talk to my younger brother Malik and see if he gives my nephews an allowance, because I'm not 100% sure if they get one or don't. But I do remember that there was a time that you got an allowance. And as I was just talking on one of our other shows back in a chat part of the phone, not online and everything, not in the actual show, I just found out from my own mom that I've got a savings bond that is probably 30 years old or something like that hopefully I'll get access to either this week or next week that was left
Nice.
to me by my grandmother and everything
Yeah.
like that. And so it's been sitting there collecting dividends. And it's like I said, she passed, I want to say, that particular grandma in the early 90s. So we're talking some 30 years ago and everything. So I think that after 30 years, it has collected some sort of revenue and all of that. So at least I hope so, and everything like that. But I just wanted your thoughts around fiscal literacy and whether we're doing a good job of teaching our people about fiscal responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I'd find it would be difficult to find a topic that we're doing worse at. Fiscal literacy is absolutely abysmal for our younger generation. And I say younger, but I sell houses. And if you talk to any mortgage lender, when they pull credit ratings, the number of people that are unqualified to buy a house because of credit card debt, student loan debt, auto debt, and pick your poison, right? An RV, a boat, Nordstrom's, right? I mean, you can finance Uber Eats now. I mean, the ability for financial institutions to find ways to extract money from uneducated populace is astounding to me. A lot of this stuff shouldn't even be legal. The documentation that they're required to sign is just fine print with no So the financial literacy that we provide our kids and our adults is just horrendous. And that basically paints the picture of how our country is currently doing. It's ugly. It's very, very ugly. Yes, I give my kids a very, very small allowance depending on their performance, either in school or they do jujitsu. So if they perform well through effort, they get rewarded. And then we do things like, they're young, right? They're only 6 and 7 years old. So after 3 months, whatever they saved from the money that they've gotten, it's never a lot, right? 20, 30, 40 bucks at the most. If they have a certain amount of money at the end of those 3 months, I will double it. So they learn the concept of setting aside money will earn interest over time. And then I've opened up little bank accounts for them, and they have a couple $100 a piece. And then we teach them about going to the ATM. This is your money. It burns interest. So all of those things, just really, really basic stuff. There's really good online programs that people can take. I'm a really big fan of Dave Ramsey, who's a very big anti-debt guy. I'm a big anti-debt guy. So yeah, I mean, financial literacy is huge. One of the things that is a little, I wouldn't call it controversial, but there's been talk from the current presidential administration where he's talking about trying to open up a retirement account for every person born with $2,000 in a savings account that they can't touch until they're retired. And so the concept being that you can contribute to it, but you cannot withdraw it. It is your money forever. And you get to see this account. You get access to it. You understand its growth process. And just having that, I think, will open people's eyes to the understanding of the growth potential, because by the time you can even conceptualize the idea, you're probably 10 or 12 years old and you will have seen this $2,000 grow, right? And then that solidifies a lot of the concepts of what you're trying to understand and you and I know, right? As we get older, 5-10 years goes by as like that, right? Yep. And so being able to understand that, you don't know that when you're 16, that, hey, if I just did $50 a month, which is a lot of money when you're that age. If I just did this, what it would be by the time you're 30, you wouldn't even comprehend. It wouldn't make sense that you would never even believe it. So just basic tools. I mean, but yeah, financial literacy is my passion for some of the younger generation to understand what their future holds, because a lot of them don't see a future.
What advice do you give? And I don't know if you have any dealings with any, because you mentioned there's some, the Arizona Cardinals are there. There's definitely sports teams like the Phoenix Suns and all along those lines. But one thing that oftentimes shocks and scares me is not just the athletes, it's also the entertainers. And I've definitely got some dealings with quite a few of those and everything. But they get a windfall. And I'm not saying that's the only way you can get a windfall. I mean, I think the lottery is up to like 700 million right now or something like that and everything along those lines. So you get these people that get these windfalls and then they burn through it quite rapidly. I know that you've heard the story of the athletes that got the great multi-deal contract and then turn around and decide to help every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every Aunt Sally, Uncle Tom, and whoever else might be out there to buy their house, buy their boat, buy some of those other things that you were just mentioning earlier and everything, and then get injured on the field or burn through all of the cash and then are totally flat broke after they are retired and all along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts around that, and if you've ever had any dealings with any athletes, and how do you get them to understand that this is a great windfall, whether it's winning the lottery or whether it's becoming a NBA or an NFL football star or everything like that. But did they need to have some real estate investments or some other investments as well?
Yeah, so the league, so I've sold quite a few homes to NFL players, and they've actually done a very good job over the last 10 years in the financial education piece. So they've done a really, really good job in helping people work through that. So they do a good job educating the individuals. The problem is the systems that are around them. So you can start with their managers. So typically their managers are the gatekeepers to all of those athletes. They manage basically their entire life, right? They coordinate their house purchases, they coordinate their auto purchases, their financial investments, their attorneys, anything related around their proxy, they're responsible for. That creates a very, very big issue. And I see a lot of people getting taken advantage of from that perspective. It's pretty ugly from the outside. So they do a good job as far as educating what people should do. The problem is the people that they entrust around them are often very much taking advantage of the fact that these people are educated on what they should do, but they're uneducated on who they should trust to do it. So that's the hard part. As far as the younger generation, you and I, we used to look at athletes, musicians. That was our big, like, lottery ticket winnings, right? The problem is this is transitioned, and this is going to be a little uncomfortable. But most kids these days are now going to be YouTube stars. They're going to be Instagram models. They're going to be this, and the big one is now OnlyFans. Right. We have a very, very large chunk of underage girls who think that they won't have to work because they can do OnlyFans and make $5, $6, $10, $15, $20,000 a month. Right. So now you're in a really, really dark place, right? At least with a college athlete, if he thinks he's going to be a professional, if he gets hurt or something, theoretically, he's going to at least finish with a college degree and somewhat of a reputation that he could go do something and earn money. But if you have a 17-year-old girl who's done OnlyFans that never leaves the internet and thinks she's going to be a millionaire, goes out and tries to get a job at a Fortune 500 company, and they Google her name and very quickly find out that she's going to be a liability for their organization, she's going to have a hard time ever overcoming a very, very bad decision she made when she was underage. So some of these issues are something we're not prepared for yet as 40 and 50-year-old men trying to motivate and lead the next generation. Because it was pretty easy to go, hey, you have a 0.01% chance of being a running back for the Buffalo Bills. Well, now they can say, well, this girl sitting next to me in my high school English class makes $4,000 a month on OnlyFans. She's not talented. She doesn't bring anything to the table. She can't run the veer outside, against Oklahoma on a Saturday. That's not what we're talking about. So there's a really, really big change in dynamic in what you're talking about that is just not being addressed.
And Chris, along those same lines, some of the things that they're doing is not really all that awe-dropping and everything. I don't have an OnlyFans account. I think I might have been on there 2 or 3 times in my life and everything, but I have been on TikTok and I have been on Instagram and I've been on a couple of the other ones, and I've literally seen some of these influencers that you're talking about. One of them, literally, her whole TikTok image was her at her swimming pool, because she lived in like a condo environment, and it was her just literally by the swimming pool and talking to the people, whether it was like some little child that might have been there, and I mean literally a child, or whether it might have been some older guy that was at the swimming pool, and she might have also, of course, been in her room as well. But literally, it was a condo in tight environment, and there was a big swimming pool nearby and everything. So a lot of the OnlyFans imagery, and this was when I looked last year, maybe I don't think it was this year, I think it was last year, but a lot of it was just her walking around her swimming pool. And I'm going like, wait a minute, you're making $5,000-$6,000 just for walking around your swimming pool. And there was another young lady that was walking around, I think she was like doing some shopping trips and things along those lines. So some of these OnlyFans models are doing things that you're going like, that's are just common teenage things that any teenager would probably do in any city, whether they're in Phoenix, whether they're in Tucson, whether they're in New York City, or whether they're in Durham, North Carolina, and they're not making the $50,000 as of yet, but then they're seeing that young lady making $50,000. So then they decide to create their own. I mean, one of the biggest reality stars is here in North Carolina, and he makes his living by doing crazy stunts, and that's Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has been here for a while, and he does some of these challenges, but he is definitely a influencer in that sense and making a lot of money as an influencer. I think he might have started as a child, but he's now a young adult. I won't say Mr. Beast is like in his 20s, maybe even pushing near 30. Don't quote me on that and everything. But yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, the ones that are good, right, that are bringing good quality content, that are influencers, whatever that is, whatever their niche is fine. And they're going to be good, I think, into the future. The problem is the bottom 99%. I mean, and you're probably seeing this now. Within a year, AI is going to replace all of them. You will not be able to tell the difference between one OnlyFans model that's AI and one that is not. I mean, it's going to be within a year. And the problem is the ones that are okay now. Let's say they're making $5,000 to $10,000 a month now, right? They're okay, but they're really riding on the backs of the fact that maybe they are beautiful. Let's just say that. But they don't really have any content that's relative or decent. They don't know how to market themselves. They don't understand the business side of things. What they're going to find very quickly is AI will duplicate their value, which is something that can be duplicated, right? Let's just say their looks or something. But what's going to be behind that AI is somebody like an engineer from India with a master's degree from Harvard. He will know how to take what's duplicatable in the look, but put a business side behind it and make that 5K 30 and put the 5K out of business. And that, unfortunately, is what's going to create a huge, huge swath percentage of these younger girls and even guys that do this content on LinkedIn and YouTube, whatever the platform is, but they don't have a business model and they don't have the content that's consumable. They will be replaced by someone who can create the duplicated and then put the business behind it.
But isn't that the problem in real estate as well? Because one of the things I'm hearing, because I do have friends in the restaurant business, and some of them are talking about these servers that, in the past, I don't know if the AI can cook yet, but who knows whether they'll be able to later. But definitely in terms of being the like the server as well as being the clerks and things like that, that is not that, like you said, it's not that far away. Maybe it's not a year away, maybe it's 4 or 5 years away and everything like that. So from a real estate perspective, how much are you concerned about that? Because I've heard people literally that are restaurant owners that are, in my understanding, petrified that they may not be hiring as many people that are humans because the computers will be doing the work, and then they'll have to program and learn how to program the computer to serve the people. And I don't know how people are going to feel if they go to a restaurant and little scooter thing comes up there and wants to take their order and everything like that. So I just wanted your thoughts around this, because I have heard people in various businesses, and with real estate, you're involved in everything from housing to commercial real estate and everything. So I just wondered, what is your take on this notion of the real estate space and whether it is going to be dominated by AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable. Most of this stuff will be dominated in some fashion. I think let's just use restaurants. The specific, let's just call it the concept, the restaurant concept will be impacted differently depending on the concept that it's behind. So for instance, Burger King, McDonald's, all those, I mean, if they have people in the building more than 2 or 3 within the next 10 years, I would be highly surprised. The next would be your casual self-service. So think of like Chipotle, something like that, where you walk up to the counter, you kind of give them directions and they're scooping something into a bowl. That would be next, right? That would be something where you might have 4 or 5 people in because they got to put something in the dish, right? But that will happen over time. And then you'll have the regular restaurants. You'll certainly maintain some sense of people who go out for a decent meal because they want to be served, right? They want to go to a restaurant. They want to see a chef. They want to have a server, a human being drop off food to them. I don't think that will die. It will just become very, very niche. And it will be more of a high-end type of experience as opposed to just eating, like a sustenance type of thing, right? Where I think the fast foods will be dominated very, very quickly. The quick casuals will come after that. And then the full service will either go away or become really niche and high-end and more of an experience. And I think it'll just evolve over time. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think you'll see some big changes.
What is your take on the music and movie industry in terms of AI? Because that was part of the reason of the strikes and everything along those lines. And there are people in those industries, and I definitely have friends that have dabbled in those industries myself as well, that are concerned about that as well. So do you think that we will still have the movies or the TV shows? Earlier today, I was watching Criminal Mind with all of its great cast and everything along those lines. But do you think that we'll still see those, or will we get to the point where that the Michael Jackson holographic concerts, and yes, I know Michael passed years ago, or the Prince holographic concerts are going to be the norm, where you'll go and see a play or a concert and you're not even sure that the people are there because they're some holographic images. So what is your take on the whole entertainment industry?
Ooh, that's way out of my wheelhouse. But I think what's going to happen, I'm actually excited about, is I think you'll see movies be dominated by AI within 10 years. It's inevitable. You're going to have high school kids who are just absolutely brilliant screenwriters be able to produce an Emmy award-winning movie that they never would have had access to because they didn't play the game of Hollywood, right? Those people are still sitting in the wings that have just never had the opportunity, right? You're gonna have an inner city kid who would never had the opportunity to get to Hollywood to do anything, will now have all of the resources at their hand to produce, the movie picture of the year, which I think is amazing, right? So that opportunity is gonna get there, and I think we're gonna be flooded with an unbelievable number of just high quality, interesting concepts related around TV, movies, and it's going to be great from that perspective. But if you're an actor, you're in big trouble. You just are. I mean, it's just something that's going to change drastically. What I'm excited about on the industry side is that what I think is going to come back is live events. Mm-hmm. I think people are going to be really, really yearning for that connection and the listening. And you probably know this, right? Live music, you just can't describe it to people. I mean, if you're not a live music person, to go see somebody performing an instrument live, it's just one of the coolest experiences you can have as a human being, right? It's just amazing that people can do that. So I think people will yearn for this connection that I think AI is going to be taking away. I think you're definitely going to get dominated with the easily consumable stuff. The Netflix and the movies and all that stuff is never going to go away, and it's going to be overwhelming because of the AI. But I think some of that smaller stuff will come in. Where I think it's going to be interesting on the consumption side on the media is we're going to have to find a way to stamp, like art, music, all that stuff was this generated by AI, right? You're going to have to find a way to legitimize and validate, was this produced by a human or was this produced by AI? And I don't know how they're going to do it. But like, I have no interest in consuming a piece of art that was generated by AI, right? I just don't. It's not.
No, I don't either, but there was a big time, and I actually got suckered into it, that it was a big trend, and I guess it's still a big trend, but I remember a lot of people got very caught up in the whole NFT movement and everything. There was one that was the NFT pictures that was very Andy Warholish, and as I remember, it was some sort of monkeys or all along those lines, but it was definitely very popular, and it was during the COVID and everything like that. And in that space, one of the things that I saw in the movie industry, and it was very popular even from a real estate standpoint, and I kind of alluded to it with the malls and everything along those lines. But what is your thoughts around this notion that a lot of our real estate is multi-use real estate, meaning that it's not just one thing? Because one of the things that happened in the movie industry, at least in many of the complexes, was it was a combination restaurant, movie house, and you would get like these mixtures of, you wouldn't just go to the movie for the movie itself, but you were also going there to get dinner. And that became like a whole trend that was out there for a while. And I don't know if it's still out there, but I just wanted your thoughts around this notion, even where it might be a comedy club and a dinner, or a family outing place, like a Wheels was what we call it here. Or I think there's another one that's got amazing in the title, but they're like those bumper car kind of places. And there might be a movie there as well. But it's like these multi-use kind of facilities.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, never underestimate, the entrepreneur's ability to creatively find a way to extract money out of a visitor. I mean, it's people sitting in a room going, how can we create an experience that keeps people here and spending their money with us? And that is the outcome that you're talking about. So I love it. I mean, from my perspective, when I can go somewhere with my kids and spend 6 hours in one location and do everything without having to move in between, it really creates, I think, a really cool experience. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's a product of ingenuity and entrepreneurship that we will continue to see. I think it's great.
Well, that's another real estate trend that was going on, and not everybody was happy about it. I'm going to tell you what it is, and I just want to take your thoughts around it. And I knew it took place in the West Coast just like it did in the East Coast as well. During the COVID time, when I said a lot of people came back home, that left a lot of empty buildings. And you can see a lot of these empty buildings still empty or not at full capacity. But we are also seeing a lot of growth where people are building new buildings, even though the old buildings aren't fully occupied and everything. So I just wanted your thoughts on that, because it seems like it's almost a contradiction where we're seeing people that are wanting to develop new buildings, but at the same time they haven't filled the old buildings, because we even saw that on, like, I literally live around the corner from Duke University, and I know that sometimes the campus is maybe, well, of course now they're just now getting back to school, but even during the other times of the full force of the campus year and everything, they may not be at maximum capacity and everything like that. And part of that was because the students were taking their courses online and didn't have to be there as much. So I was just wondering your thoughts around this, because it seems like almost like a competing factors that are going against each other, which is the developers want to build new buildings, which I get, you want to make money and everything, but then the other folks are like, well, wait a minute, there's a whole apartment complex over there and they're only at 50-60% occupancy. Why are we building a new one if they're only at 50% occupancy? So I just wanted your thoughts around that, because it seems to be a national trend.
Yeah, and just every area is different, right? In Arizona, we're doing it. It depends. The construction costs might be one factor. The datedness of the building might be another. Sometimes it's depending on the age of the building. It might be cheaper to build a new one. The technology that you want in these buildings is much better. So if you got a 40-year-old building, it's not designed for whatever it is they're looking to accomplish. So it's just cheaper to build your own. And then you hit it right on the head, which is they want to make money. So if they find a way to deploy capital in a way that creates a successful outcome for them, they're going to do whatever is in the best interest of their, let's call it their stockholders, right? Whoever that is. So the trend, the market's going to adjust. Entrepreneurs are going to find a way to make money. I find it, I've always found it very interesting and funny that the government, however you want to define that, tries to find ways to put up constraints and focus the attention onto a specific growth pattern. You cannot contain the ingenuity of entrepreneurs. It will not happen. The people who make money will always find a way to make money. You cannot stop it. They move too fast. They think too consistently. They are focused on one goal. Money moves way too fast now. You shut down one jurisdiction from one, they will move to another state with the click of a mouse. It's just not a thing for them. It doesn't bother them one way or the other. Overcoming obstacles, and like we've talked about before, right? Performing under pressure. This is not a thing for them, right? If you want to take 2 years to figure out some way to pass some law to stop somebody from doing X, they're just going to move somewhere else and do Y. It makes no difference to them. And so, yeah, it's just, it's interesting watching, and I see exactly what you're talking about, which is, well, why are you, there's a building right there. Why don't you just buy that and remodel it? It doesn't make any sense. To us, it doesn't make sense. To them, they found whatever niche that they need. They are not losing money. They will find a way to make it, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense and everything like that. One of the things I know people talk about quite often in real estate, just in business in general, even in life, and even in regular relationships, is this notion of something else that we probably don't teach enough of in school and all along those lines. So I know that it's very important to you and all along those lines. So what are your thoughts about communications, and what are some of the big mistakes that folks make as leaders in trying to communicate? Because I think the communication is like fiscal literacy. It's one of those things that we give a lot of lip service to, but I don't know that we do a good job of actually doing it on a regular basis. One of the old jokes that the people used to say, or old saying, is that there's a reason that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth and everything along those lines. But I don't know that everybody actually follows that advice and everything like that. So what is your thoughts about leadership and the importance of communication within leadership?
Yeah, your last statement is exactly right. Two ears and 1 mouth. We are not asking enough questions. We don't have the information. We have our leadership styles of the whole top down. This is what we're doing. It's dated. It's not going to work in the future, unfortunately. Leadership has kind of gone the way of like, I'll put in my time, and then once I get there, I can kind of coast. And now that I've obtained this, I can do that. Unfortunately, we're just not there anymore. Once you obtain the leadership position, it's now almost more work, because now you have to figure out what is going on. And the only way you can do that is by asking questions, likely from people who you think aren't in a position to give you opinions. And that's kind of your fault for thinking that. This next generation is some of the most educated and exposed people that we've ever seen. They've had the internet since they were 4. They are way ahead of where we were. from an exposure standpoint. They have a lot of opinions. They're willing to share them. You may not like them, but as a leader, if you're able to ask very, very good questions and dig deep, you're going to extract the information you need to make very, very good executive decisions that'll keep them engaged. It'll lower your turnover, and it'll focus you in a direction that will create outcomes that you need. So I think you hit it right on the head, which is we have got to start asking more questions.
Definitely got to ask more questions, everything. And I always get the two confused, so forgive me for this confusion and everything, but it does seem like a lot of the leaders now are wanting to do the kind of leadership where you are dictating to your crew. And I always get micro and macro confused, but I have seen quite a few leaders that are trying to dabble in everything. And I've always thought that good leaders should delegate and let the other people that are good in those skills do what they're good in, and all along those lines. So if you've got a restaurant and if you've got somebody that is good as a cook, let the cook and the head cook be the head cook. Don't try to be cooking for him and everything like that. And if you've got a good server, let them do the good serving that they are doing, and don't try to do all of the serving jobs. But I've seen a lot of leadership, and I'm just using the restaurant as an example, and those two quick jobs and everything where they're trying to dabble their hands in everything. So I was just wondering your thoughts around that, and how, and like I said, I always get micro and macro. I think that's micro, but don't quote me on that.
No, let's use your example, right? So if you're a leader, let's use two different restaurant examples. Let's use McDonald's, and let's use a high-end steak. Let's use any high-end restaurant, right? When you're hiring as a leader and you're hiring a cook for McDonald's, right? You're not hiring someone because of their creativity, on the grill, right? You want someone that can stand for 8 hours a day in a monotonous way, throw in an earpiece, listen to a podcast, and flip burgers. Are they going to show up on time, sober, and with a good attitude and in uniform? If you can get those things out and they last longer than 6 months, you've won as a leader. That is the depth of success that you can obtain in a position like that, because this generation has no interest in doing those positions. I don't blame them. But from a leadership perspective, that's kind of what you're after. And trying to identify those people are great. The problem is when leaders go into a role like that and they try to find someone who's dynamic, who's educated, who can speak well, you're going after the wrong person, because they're going to quit in a week. They have no interest in doing that. You have to find the position, and you're looking for an outcome. And the position you're applying for, you have to find the person that's going to fit that. But vice versa. Let's say you run a restaurant. It's non-chain. It's yours, or at least you're a GM for it. The position you're applying for, right? You need someone and want someone that's creative. The problem is we're very stuck on that side of it, where we don't allow their creativity to thrive. So what we'll do is we'll build a menu. We'll say these are our items, our menu items that our restaurant is going to offer. Then hire a great chef, put him behind the grill, and say, here's what you're cooking. He's not interested in that either. Right. And so the problem is you can't hire the McDonald's chef for that restaurant because he has no interest in making the outcome of the food and the experience quality. But you can't hire the creative person and put him behind the grill and tell him what he has to cook.
Right.
So what as leaders, what we need to do is we need to hire the guy who's creative, bring him in, and say, build me my menu. Allow him to take ownership in the process. So when he's sitting behind the grill, he's the one that creates the outcome. And so allowing people from a leadership perspective to do what they want to do, and then build your organization around their success, creates the outcome that you're looking for, not the other way around. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I would say leaders really need to start analyzing the roles that they're hiring for, and then building their organization around the outcome that they're looking for, not the other way around.
No, that makes sense. How important do you think it is for leaders to have an understanding of the communities that they're coming into? Because like I said, that's one of the things that I was talking to the people that are doing the executive search. And that's one of the things that I mentioned was that even if they came from another city or another state to take the leadership role at this particular nonprofit that I work for, that I would hope that they would at least do their due diligence and the research into the community. Because I've seen some people that are even in other cities nearby and didn't seem to spend enough time in the community that they were serving. So how important do you think it is for a leader to have some buy-in into the space that they are working?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, obviously, depending on the industry that they're looking for, right? The early example I use would be a salon.
Right.
I mean, that's imperative, right? If you don't understand what neighborhood you're moving into, you're going to have a very, very different outcome, right?
Right.
You're not going to open a retirement barbershop for golfers in a predominantly white neighborhood in Central City Philly, right? You're not going to open a black barbershop in the suburb of Kentucky, right? You have to do your markets. I mean, these are just very obvious, obscure examples. But the good news is market segmentation, research, and all that stuff has become really easy to do, right? The collateralization of this through ChatGPT is really obscene, from traffic patterns and average age, disposable income, average rents, utilities costs, anything you can think of is really at your fingertips, which used to cost thousands of dollars or hundreds of man hours to research is really, really done much better. The other idea is picking an industry and then building your business around where you're at. Right. So people try to fit a square peg in a round hole and go, I want to do this, and then look for a place to put it. Sometimes it's easier to find a place where you want to put it and then build it around what you're putting it in. So it just depends on what you're trying to achieve and going in with that kind of
I guess the question I would ask you about that is, because I've always been a big fan of knowing the players. Like I said, I'm in the arts field and been in the arts field for decades here in Durham and all along those lines. And there are a number of people that are fellow players in the game, whether that's people that work for Parks and Rec, whether that's people that work for other theaters, whether that's people that work for other things as well. So that's kind of what I meant with it. Somebody, I'm not saying that somebody from Arizona couldn't take the job and couldn't be effective, or somebody from New York couldn't take the job but be effective, but they would need to know the players. And I would see the same thing even for, like I mentioned, I lived not that far from Duke University, and I would think, I don't know this because I have a couple of doctor friends, but not a lot of doctor friends, but I would think that a doctor that was coming into Duke University or coming to UNC hospital and everything would want to know what some of the other doctors, particularly in their specialty, are that are in the area already and everything like that, because you might want to know who your competitors are or who you might be working with, because we know if there's a major heart surgery, the two heart surgeons, say from UNC and Duke, may wind up working together. So say it's a new heart surgeon coming into Duke, I would think you might want to know who the UNC heart surgeon is, and I'm just using that as an example.
1,000%. Yeah. And you touched on it at the beginning, right? You are really big and understand the benefit of the networking aspect of it.
Right.
And yeah, so understanding the players from that perspective. Yes. Now I understand what you're saying, which is, to think that you're going to go into business and not have people in your corner in all aspects of industry, whatever you're trying to accomplish, it's just not going to happen. You cannot achieve success in this world right now with how fast things are moving without support systems around you and people to call for suggestions. You are not an island. You cannot survive as an island. The marketplace is too competitive. You cannot survive without a family around you, whatever that family is going to be, to support it. Yeah, it's imperative.
No, I agree. We'll get wrap up very shortly and everything, but I do have a question that I ask everybody at the end, so probably about another 10 or 15 minutes or everything. But one of the things I saw on your podcast that I'm always fascinated by, because I see people that have done it, some people that are still trying to do it, and sometimes it can be a headache. I've got a friend of mine that is trying to figure out how to deal with his family dynamic and all along those lines. But what advice would you give to folks that had a setback, whatever that setback was? Maybe they lost their job, maybe they lost their car, maybe they lost whatever the setback is. Because I know one of the things that you talked about was that even in your own life that you've had to turn setbacks into leadership opportunities. So I was just wondering, what are some of those examples, and what advice would you give to folks that are going through whatever the setback is? Because we all face setbacks at one point or another in our life. It's just the nature of living.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Jocko Willink, whatever his name is?
The name doesn't sound familiar to me.
He's a Navy SEAL. He's got a great 1.5 minute YouTube video called Good, G-O-O-D, Good. And he has put it the best way that I've ever been able to. I've never been able to verbalize it like he can. And essentially, did something bad happen to you? Good. It's good. Are you in a bad place? Did you lose your job? Good. Did your girlfriend leave you? Good. Because you and I both know failure is the only way you're going to achieve success. It's the only way. If you failed, that is one step closer to the outcome you're looking for. You have got to fail on your way to success. It is the only way it's going to happen. You will never meet someone in a successful position that didn't fail 1,000 times before they got there. When something bad happens to you, you say good, you get up, you dust yourself off, You say thank you and you keep moving forward. That's the only way you can do it. Take it as a positive. It's not going to feel any better. It's still going to hurt. Good. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The pain is what's going to create the outcome, and the positivity of it is going to come once you achieve the success. And the people that get there are the ones that can get up over and over and over and over again and start looking to fail. Once you start good, you have a good mentality about it, you feel good about it, and you move forward. Don't dwell on it. Good. I'm glad it happened to you. Perfect. Now what are you going to do about it? That's going to define who you are. And that's what I love about it. I fail all the time. And every time it happens, I feel that pit in your stomach, that kick takes the wind out of you. You feel like you're never going to recover. People are mad at you. Your family's not calling you back. You missed a sale. You lost your job. You got an F, whatever it is. Good. You learned something. Move on and get better.
No, that makes sense. One of the things I know that a lot of people have been doing about real estate, and I don't know what your thoughts about it, but here in North Carolina, everybody seems to be wanting to go into real estate. It seems to be one of the popular fields, real estate, insurance, and there are a couple of other ones that I've seen a lot of people try to go into and everything. I don't know that everybody tries to get into it, understands what they're getting into, because I do know that it is not as easy as people think it is. I'm not saying it's a hard field, and I know you can make a whole heap of money in it as you have and everything, but I just wanted your thoughts, because every time I turn around, and I've actually got a good friend of mine, he's actually a real estate photographer, because his wife is a photographer. I mean, he's the real estate agent, but he does it both for her as well as for other clients of other real estate developers, some in her firm and some that are separate from her firm and everything along those lines. But I do see a lot of people that are automatically trying to go to the chain real estate. So, and I'm just going to put them that way, whether it's Keller Williams, whether it's Fonville, Morrissey, or a number of others as well. So I just wanted your thoughts about this notion of real estate as an instant way for wealth, because I can tell you that I've had quite a few of my friends say, I'm going to take a real estate course. I'm going to go make a whole heap of money as a real estate agent. And I know that it is not as easy. Don't get me wrong, because I know you made a lot of money, but I'm saying that I'm not knocking and saying that they can't make money. But I do sometimes think that people are maybe going into it with the wrong mindset. That's just my opinion and everything. But I just wanted your take on this notion that everybody can get rich and everybody needs to join one of these chain real estate agencies. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can make money doing anything you want. It's a matter of what you apply yourself to. Real estate's no different. I think where the kind of the appeal comes from is a lot of times, we grandiose this thing. I mean, we're salesmen, right? So on social media and video clips and stuff, you're going to see people highlighting the highlight reels of what real estate is. No one's going to show you the grind, right? You don't want to follow me around for a day, because it will teach you to never get involved in real estate, right? My day starts at 4 a.m. You're not going to want to sit down and make phone calls and get hung up on. You're not going to want to door knock, sit open houses, talk to people that don't want to talk to you, right? It's an absolute grind. And typically people just aren't willing to put in the work. They see the highlight reel of success on whatever platform they're seeing it on, and they think that they can do it. The other side is, it's a low barrier to entry. Right? It's a 2-week school. You take it on the weekends. Anyone can do it. High school education, as long as you don't have a felony, there's your diploma or your degree, full certification, you're off and running. So the ease of access makes it kind of, something like that. The other piece is when you do see someone that obtaining success, you're like, how did they, what? I remember smoking weed with this guy in high school. Now he's making money. He didn't go to medical school. Why is he doing so well? So, you have some of that to it. But as far as the chain ones, I mean, you'll have a lot of agents that will badmouth or say that their brokerage is the best and they're confused why anybody else would choose something else. I would never do that. Every brokerage has something for somebody, right? Yeah. Everyone is different depending on what you're trying to get into. It doesn't matter. I used to work at Keller Williams. I loved them. They were great. They had a very, very good training program. But once you change your business model, the business model that supports you should be changing. Right. So you just move around. It's a fact of life. No different than when you switch jobs. One job may mature, it may not. I mean, it's just, there is no better one than another. It's just whatever it is you're looking to achieve, you have to apply what you want your outcome to be to the brokerage that's going to support you. So there's no better one. But yeah, that's to say that it's
the other stereotype that you hear people say and everything along those lines, and I'm not saying it's a true stereotype, but it is one that is played out a lot in the social media and the TV media and everything, which is that this notion that you've got to be a athletic looking guy or a model looking woman in order to be a real estate agent, and that you can't have a gruff beard or anything along those lines. But I've seen some real estate agents, because even when we were looking at real estate in Florida, when I was living there, and Mom was looking at Hogeland Barkalow, I believe was his name, was a real estate agent, and he had a beard even gruffier than mine and everything, but he was one of their top sales agents and was selling a lot of property on those beachfronts of around Boca Raton, Delray Beach, and stuff 100%. Like that. Unfortunately, the job did not last that long. I think I was there for less than 6 months, so I didn't have to wind up buying a house in that area, but Mom did come down and visit and look at some property with me, and we probably would have got something if the job had lasted longer and all along those lines. But I was just wondering your thoughts around this stereotype that exists that every real estate agent is going to look like the real estate agents that you see on Real Housewives of Atlanta.
No, but it's, obviously the ones that you see on these things are the ones that you've described, right? They're not going to put, the uncharismatic, unattractive person on television. Right. So that's just the way it's going to go. The running joke in Scottsdale is that, when you get your divorce, you get your blonde hair, your keys to a BMW, your boob job, and your real estate license. And that's just kind of that's just what it is. So no, I know very, very successful real estate agents that have nothing to do with that. It's not that at all. There's 3 keys to success in any business. They have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. Right. You have those 3 things, you're going to do just fine. And how you look is not one of them. I would certainly say present yourself consistently. That's just been my ploy from the beginning, is respect the position that you're in. I am helping people with the biggest purchases of their life. So I put on a uniform that I think represents what I am carrying into the meeting. Some people don't do that. They show up in flip-flops. I think that's disrespectful. They found success in it. It works for them and their clientele, and maybe that's just what they're doing. I don't agree with that. I think you should respect the position that you're in and dress accordingly. But that has nothing to do with your physique or how you look, right? You can put on a nice set of clothes and shower and do your hair and look great and respect everything that you're doing. So, but no, that's your analysis of the reputation is probably more associated with what's on TV, because that's what goes on TV. But certainly not a requirement, and maybe even detrimental to some extent, because sometimes people don't want to work with that. They have no interest in trusting that to somebody who they think is just there for the look, right? That's not what they're trying to do. So, no, don't let that discourage you.
That makes sense. What is your thoughts about the importance of a real estate photographer? Because like I said, my good friend Martin Freed and his wife Karen, she's the real estate agent, but he is the real estate photographer. Like I said, he's done it for his wife, but he's also done it for other agents as well. So how important do you think it is to have those? One thing we've been talking about is that, which I did not realize, and I don't know how it is in Arizona, but he was trying to get me to do some voiceovers for him, and the agents lately have not wanted to do the voiceovers because they feel that the pictures alone are enough to sell the building and everything like that. But I just wanted your take on voiceovers to go with the real estate pictures as well as the real estate pictures in general. Because like I said, I think that that's an important part of the real estate portfolio, but I don't know if it's the same in Arizona.
Yeah, no, it is. I think photos in itself. We can separate all the different media opportunities, but photos in themselves, I think, are the absolute number one biggest priority as far as your first site for buyers looking at it. So I spend an enormous amount of money on photography. Videos and supplement after that have different impacts based on location, price point, amenities, things like that, right? You're not going to spend $1,000 on a video for an 800 square foot condo, right? It just might not be relevant. But if you're on a golf course with a sprawling outdoor patio or something like that, right? Each one's going to be unique. But yeah, photos are definitely the most valuable marketing money spent. I would say it's also market dependent. So 3 years ago during COVID, I could have taken pictures with a 1960s cell phone, put it on one picture on Zillow, and I would have had 30 offers in an hour. Didn't make any difference. So it's all market dependent, right? And then it's funny, it all comes back around. Now it's a buyer's market. Now you have to do luxury, great photography. You don't have a choice, or you're not even going to get looked at. So some of that comes into play too. But no, there is no better thing. I haven't really done voiceover. I don't know where I would use much of it, but because even on the social media side, most people aren't listening right? They're looking at their phone while doing something else. The audio typically isn't on anyway. I have done voiceovers back in the day. The ones I do now more are me in the video as opposed to voiceover. So I'll do in-person stuff as opposed to voiceover. But like you said, there's other people who aren't comfortable on camera. They don't like their voice. And then voiceover becomes very appropriate for something like that.
Yeah, like I said, that's what we've learned. Like I said, I think I did 1 or 2 voiceovers for him and everything like that. But for the most part, either the agent themselves or other folks wanted to do it, or like you said, a lot of times they were content with just a picture making the sale, because there's that old saying, the picture is worth 1,000 words, and all along those lines. So the picture is definitely very important and everything. Just really quickly, and then I'll ask you this question, and the last 2 that I ask everybody. Wow, what are some of the real estate strategies that have surprised you, or that are surprising in the 21st century, that folks should be aware of, and all along those lines? So what are some real estate tips that you would give to people if they are looking at possibly buying real estate, whether that's in Arizona where you are, or whether that's in Philadelphia, which you're a fan of, or North Carolina or Florida or anywhere?
So you're talking about from like an investment strategy?
Yes.
Yeah. And this maybe have changed because of my age. I'm 42 now. For me, I would say people need to stop focusing on cash flow and start focusing on turnover. So if you can get a tenant to be long-term, that is the key to long-term success. It's the idea being that you can generate income somewhere else, right? You have a high-paying job somewhere else, you're doing sales, you're doing something that generates the opportunity to go purchase more real estate, and you don't need the cash flow from previous real estate to fund it. The idea being that turnover is the killer. Turnover kills your valuations. It kills your income. It does everything. So I would rather take let's say a $2,000 a month tenant, right? I can get $2,000 a month for this house. I would rather get $1,750 and lock up a 3-year note. So if I can get a 3-year rental agreement for $250 less per month, I will take that all day long versus $2,000 a month for a year. Because if they leave in a year, I have to re-rent it. So it's going to be vacant more than likely at least a month. So whatever my mortgage payment is already ate up all of that increased profit for the year. All of it right there, gone. That's not counting cleaning carpets, getting paint, advertising, utilities rollovers, and then just the overall hassle and management of getting new people in there. Long-term tenancy and lower turnover is 100% the key to success. People are really, really pitching cash flow. I wouldn't focus on that. I would focus on long-term tenants.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great advice and everything like that. I said that was the last question. I lied. What other question? But it has nothing to do with real estate or firework and all on those lines. What is a hobby or an interest that you got that people would be surprised about? You mentioned your daughter that was into jiu-jitsu and everything like that. So what is something that if folks knew this or they're watching this podcast, they're going to be like, I didn't know that he did that. You mentioned boxing earlier, and I assume you're still doing boxing, but is there any other hobbies that you either contemplated doing? Like I knew there was a time I was contemplating doing whitewater rafting because I had a friend who passed away. She's a little bit older and everything, and she was writing a book with whitewater rafting was a focus of and everything like that. So I was like, that looked like that would be cool to do. I have another friend that I think has skydived several times and everything, and I'm going like, nope, that's okay. Me and plane have the purpose is to get me from point A to point B, not for me to fall out of it and everything. But that's just my opinion on skydiving and everything like that. But I just wondered, what's a hobby you've got that folks might be surprised by?
Yeah, I have to go back. Listen, I am very boring. I'm a workaholic. I would say what most surprises my clients most is probably my boxing. Like we're going tonight. I got to go spar a couple of pros that are like 25, and they just beat the hell out of me for 3 or 4 rounds. And I don't know why, but I just like to fight. That's just my thing. I enjoy it. It's just something I like doing. It's the chess match of physicalness is just really, really interesting to me. I've always enjoyed sports and competition, and that I just dork out on that. It's just a stress game that I just love to do. That's a funny one.
What is your thoughts around modern day boxing? Because I know some people are into MMA and don't think that the modern day boxing is as good as it used to be and everything like that. And maybe you could have been the Rocky of the day and everything like that. So.
No, sir. I am not good. I just enjoy it. No, modern day boxing. I mean, I definitely have the fighters that I like to follow and watch. it's a show. It's a money grab. I don't like the concept of the marketing and stuff behind it. But the sport, I will always love the sport. So usually when I watch it, I turn the volume off. I watch it with just music, just because I understand the concept of it. I'm not a big MMA guy, mainly because I don't know what's going on. I don't like the quickness of it. I don't like how short it is. The chess match of watching people make adjustments between rounds is what's really cool to me. Having a coach adjust your game plan on the fly, and like we said, talked about earlier, right? Performing under pressure, all that kind of stuff is really, it just embodies the human experience to me. And what else can you define as, right? Fighting for your life, right? It's amazing to me. So no, modern day boxing, I would say, and it's what you would probably, you're thinking is modern day, I don't enjoy, but the sport will never change. It's two people going at it in a ring with nobody else breaking it up, trying to make adjustments to, create a positive outcome. So I still watch.
That's one of the events I hated. I missed earlier this year because a friend of mine, we did the Road to the Apollo. It's kind of like the Apollo that people know in New York, and we modeled after them and had permission to send our winners to their real Apollo and everything, and jumped the line. So we did that for 10 plus years and everything like that. But the gentleman that did it, Captain Newborn, his real name and not his rank, because he never served in the military from what I remember and everything like that. But he organized that, and he and his now wife, or because they just got married recently, she's into boxing, and they did a boxing match the day before we did our go-go concert.
Nice.
We did our go-go concert. So I missed the boxing match that I wish I had gone to, but I did participate in the go-go concert that featured Trouble Funk as well as Belladonna, which is an all-girls group, and then a Frankie Beverly and everything like that. But it was fun and all along those lines. But I think they're going to do some more boxing matches. So hopefully I'll get to those, because there's a gentleman that has a boxing gym.
Yeah, those live events too. If you can see great boxing live, it's unreal. It's amazing. It is really, really cool to watch.
Yep, and that's what I know. That I think his name is Macy. He does that as well. And then, like I said, Captain Newborn's wife is very much involved in that as well. So I've got to get there and get to one of those boxing matches, because it looks like it would be a fun thing to get to. I was also hoping to get to the roller rink competition, because they were bringing back the old roller derby, and I missed that one as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, but that looks like that would be fun. One of the things I get everybody to do on these shows and everything is tell how they can be reached and how they can be contacted if there's anything that they didn't get to that they want to get to, and all along those lines. And then, like I said, the network Pod TV is a global network, so I always like to have my guest and in this case as a guest and everything, give a message of positivity to our global community. So we'll end on those notes. So if you want to tell folks how they can reach you, if there's anything that you didn't get to that you'd like to get to, as well as definitely your message of positivity that you'd like to share with our global audience.
Oh yeah. You can reach me. I mean, I'm an open book. So my cell phone direct, if you want to call me, if you have questions, I love coaching, teaching, answering questions. So 602-561-1346. And then my email address is chris.tiller@russlyon.com, RUSSLYON.com. Message of positivity. You are not in this alone. Whatever your fight is, I promise you somebody else has gone through it. Find a support system around you. People will love to follow and watch your success as you go through it. Cut out the dead weight in your life. You don't need it. As you evolve, so do the people that around you need to be evolved. So that's okay. Just keep pushing forward. You're not in this. Reach out to anyone and everyone you can. The people that have been through it will be willing to help you. You'll be very surprised. The more you call, the more happy and helpful people will be. So keep fighting.
Yep, definitely. Just really quickly, I said that was the last question. This is absolutely the last one. What is your thoughts around, because it came up in your profile, what do you mean by building high-performance cultures without fluff? Because I think a lot of times we get caught up in fluff, and we've kind of alluded to that even during this show and everything. So what do you mean when you're telling people to build high-performance cultures without this whole notion of fluff?
Yeah, so fluff to me is like these overarching, bullet points that people read in a book, right? Like, hey, let's talk. And, we did some of that here, but we unpacked it, which is helpful, right? But a lot of people will say, make sure you talk to your people about, work-life balance. And then they just leave it at that, right? That's fluff to me. I am more into hey man, what do you like to do on a Saturday night? And don't bullshit me, right? If you like to go home and smoke weed and play video games, I don't care. That's not for me to judge. I just want to know what creates success for you and what do you want to do with your life. I'm here to help you through it, right? It's getting through kind of the overarching, I read this in a book, this is what I'm supposed to say, and then regurgitating these like bullet point nonsense that don't do anything for people. I like actionable, tangible items that cut through to the people and to the message and that people can use in their day-to-day life. That's the goal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What is your thoughts around education? Because these last PSAs that I'm going to play are around teachers and education. There was a group of folks, I believe they were in Oklahoma, that honored not just the teachers, but the support staff as well, whether that was the guidance counselor, whether that was the janitor, whether that was the whoever, and all along those lines. So I'm going to play that as well as a announcement about, or a short poem about the importance of teachers and coaches and everything like that. So just if you want to comment on that, and then I'll play these two outgoing PSAs that touch on that as well. But how important were your teachers to you and your coaches, as well as the importance of the support staff behind them when you were in school?
Yeah, teachers have, now that my kids are in school, that has got to be one of the most difficult jobs I have seen people try to undertake. My mom was a teacher for 30 years, so I saw her go through this. Teachers, listen, you got it tough. No one feels bad for you. People drop their kids off and expect you to raise them in a way that it's just too much for you to handle a lot of times. I mean, there's 25 first graders in my kid's class. To expect her to come home and be proficient in whatever it is they're trying to learn is just not, I think, a recipe for success. I certainly don't hold my teachers fully accountable for that. I have to, to own that as a parent. I think that's part of my role and responsibility. Not all parents feel that way, nor do they have the time and resources. So I'm amenable to that. I would say for teachers, listen, be humble about what you're able to accomplish, right? Don't have fear in explaining to people why you're unable to do certain things or why certain things are going to be too difficult to overcome. Explain the challenges that you're dealing with in a way that creates buy-in from parents, right? You have parents in your class who are willing to do things for you. I believe that. Even if I grew up in a trailer park. Listen, it was rough, right? A lot of my teachers didn't care. They just didn't. They were there for a paycheck, and that's just what it was. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been told, you're not going to amount to anything. You're just a troublemaker. You're the class clown. You're just going to be like this, or you're going to be like that. And that was, ironically enough, some of the most motivation that I needed. But teachers, listen, if you're having struggles, express them, explain them in a way that gets buy-in from parents to create a support system around you. Trust me, a lot of these parents are going to want a successful outcome and want to assist you. If my teacher reached out to me today and said, hey, teacher or parents, this is the problem we're dealing with. I need some help here. I can't possibly do this all by myself. We need some assistance. Please work on your kids to do this. If you want to volunteer, we'll come into the classroom, help your kids through this. The reason we're not creating these successful outcomes is because kids aren't getting help at home, right? Whatever it takes, communication is the key. Build a system and support around you. Don't rely on your administration around you. They're not going to always be there for you, or they're going to be overworked just like you. But again, get buy-in where you can. Be honest about what you're capable of. Don't be afraid to admit when you're failing, because you theoretically should have support around you to do this. And you're not on an island. Make sure you ask for help and get it where you can. My heart goes out to teachers, man. It is a tough world out there.
No, it's definitely a tough world. We get ready to go out and play these two PSAs and everything. I was actually just thinking about my brother's girlfriend's daughter, who is a second or third year teacher. So she graduated from education school and everything. And I was talking to her at that birthday party that I alluded to at the beginning of this show and everything, from my dad and his girlfriend. And she was saying, Effie, was that I was asking her how school was going. And she was like that she was having a hard time, but it wasn't so much the students. It was just what you said. It was the adults, which is the administrators and the parents and folks that were not giving her the respect that she deserved, even though she's a young teacher, because she's probably only in her early 20s or something along those lines.
That's tough, man. Can you imagine? That's wild.
Yep. Not that much older than the students themselves. And then you got parents that are probably much older than her and everything. And they're over there trying to not give her the respect that she deserves. And then she was also saying that the administrators and other people in the adult field were not giving her the respect as well. So yeah, I can only imagine what it would be like as a young teacher, because like I said, she just graduated from college, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, so she can't be more than 23 or 24.
Oh, she's young. Yeah.
in that age range. So hopefully FA will do well, but we'll check out these announcements and everything, and then we'll get ready to get on out of here. It's been a fun conversation, Chris, and I look forward to hopefully getting you back on another show as well. But
Anytime.
This has been a fun conversation, and hopefully we'll get you back on some future.
Have a great day, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. We'll see you.
No problem. See you.
Bye.
I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop. I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop.
I want to thank everyone for coming to the 2020 TAF Awards. This was a show like no other, people. This is the Grammys for dignitaries, educators, and support staff around the state of Oklahoma and worldwide. We cannot do this without the support of the people. So we thank you, I thank you for being such a dedicated supporter to this movement for the Teachers Appreciation Foundation. I thank you.
I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop.
The difference between thinking and doing and living in the 21st century. They teach us about being a real quarterback-oriented games. We don't have to just use video games and live in the shadows of good things because of them. We grow up with agility far larger and bigger than we are tall. Parents are the champions and have to be our first life coaches and know-it-alls. Who knows how this came to be? Coaches will ask you if you know your right foot from your left, if you know yourself, if you act knowingly good or bad, if you can move and negotiate a field with style and form, if you can tackle or throw a pass, or if your last name is that of a clown. If you can let someone know on the team that you are in trouble before you cause yourself or someone else trouble. If you are ready to learn teamwork or aware that you started out today with your pants down or your sportsmanship was left on the kitchen table. If you know the social studies, the alphabets, science, music, characters, and the stats and the numbers of a great student player eligible to stay on the team. And if you know the poise of great athletic champions and their scientific attitudes that are historical or music to us now, if you have the swag of the game, the discipline, the performance, and artistic form down pat, and if you have the style of gymnastics that the sport has with life, if you have the work ethic and determination to make it all seem easy and not a game at all, if you have the knowledge of all the above, or you don't know things like this even make the difference. I think that when it comes to the importance of parents and their field and self-knowledge, wisdom, virtues, and courage, their teachings, love, respect, care that they illustrate on the field and in the grind of life with their actions and their ideas, experiences, muscle, and strategic magic and skills wrapped around us with their priceless love. For their verbs to be that make us winners in this hard and fast third century that without them, kids and adults, athletes could hardly see or do anything at all. Parents teach us the difference between playing video games and playing on the field. Parents teach us how to be champions. A huge hug should go to parents, coaches, and parent-like community people who have love on the field for you and who are champions for your life, both in and out the games.